What I've tried to do is to create an ambiance for people to make many conclusions. I have not tried to be conclusive. It's like me standing in front of 10 people, talking to 10 people. I'm not telling them what I am. I'm just talking. And then let each person conclude for his own. Now each person will conclude according to his own experience, has his own prejudices, his own guilts, his own dreams, his own fantasies. And it's the first time I've made a film like that, but definitely here I'm allowing for people to, I'm in fact actively trying to do that. I actively try to get people, the viewer, to try, and I've provoked him constantly in my editing. I'm trying to make the viewer uncomfortable constantly. I've tried to cut out logic. I've tried to cut out grammar of filmmaking. So I can say to you, it's nice to meet you, Deepa, and it's very comfortable for me to say that. And it is not it is a sentence that means something, but it is not a sentence that makes you think. So the moment I say, meet Deepa, nice to for you, it'll suddenly say, what is this guy saying? And for a moment, it'll provoke your mind into trying to connect it logically. So in my form, that's what I've tried to do. In my form, I've tried to destructure the film out of the conventional ways of telling a story. I've tried to destructure it out of the conventional ways of presenting a film, and yet tell a story, but constantly throw the viewer up and down, this way, that way, so he's constantly, his mind is alive, and to try and stay away from the grammar of good cutting, the grammar of well-spoken dialogue, the grammar of smoothness of narration. Because I am dealing with a life that is not smoothly narrated. I'm dealing with a life that is not well cut. I'm dealing with a life that is constantly looked over his shoulder to see when the next bullet is coming or when the next rape is coming. I'm dealing with a life that has broken all norms of, if you like, the civilization has been civilized to Pulan Devi, and Pulan Devi has not been civilized to civilization in return. So I'm not making a civilized film. I'm a bit tired, that's why I kept changing my unit. I did not want a civilized unit, I wanted a crazy, slightly uncivil unit. When Seema Biswas, the girl who casting very rightly came to me and said, wanted to discuss base motivations of the character, which is what we are told all good films do, and all. So they have a morale, and the characters have a graph, and you talk about a character, and you sit down and make a half-page document on the characterization. And that characterization is there with the cameraman and the director and the actress, mainly with the actress. So she said she wanted to talk to me about it, and I had no idea what I was going to say to her. But when she said, okay, let's sit down and talk about it. And we started doing the normal things that we believe that good acting is all about. We started doing the normal things that we believe that good directing and filmmaking is all about. And then I suddenly lost the cool, and I said, Seema, that's all crazy, this is all crap. This is the way people have been making films for years. This is what you've been taught and what I've been taught or what I've taught myself. It's all shit. And she was taken aback and said, what do you mean? I said, look, I'm going to ask you something. You're sitting in front of me, you're Seema Biswas. Forget Pulan Devi, let's talk about you. What makes you tick? What are your base motivations? Sum totalize your life in half a page. You know yourself much better than you know Pulan Devi. Can you do it? She can do it. I can't do it. So why do we filmmakers believe that we are God and we can do it? You can't do it. And you're being very unfair to a person if you're actually trying to sit down and say, base motivations. What is your base motivation? You try and, your base motivation changes every third day. At least every month your base motivation is different. So why do we give characters one base motivation? Because it is easier for us to tell a story. It is easier for us to lie. That's the problem. It's easier for us to lie by doing that and cover up our lives as filmmakers, as storytellers. And I was not going to do that in this film because she's alive. Making Pool has been very satisfying because I've dealt a lot with my subconscious. My instructions to everybody were, let's talk for hours before a scene. Let's spend the whole night talking. When we are on the sets, that is the only moment that matters. What we've talked about, what history is, what the future is, nothing matters. Live that moment. Now, those were my instructions to my actors. And those were my instructions to myself. It doesn't matter what you planned. It doesn't matter what you thought. It's all gone into your subconscious. Now do what you feel is best for that moment, at that location, when the sun is high and when you're tired, so you're tired. Do something with your tiredness. That's exactly what I used to tell the actors. Do something in that moment. So, in one way it's very indulgent filmmaking. In another way it's very introspective filmmaking. In a third way, it's the only honest filmmaking that I know. I made Pool and David totally honestly, without thinking about CPCI or success. But that's a very small amount thing that I dropped. I dropped grammar. I dropped rules. So I don't even know, because I think Puran Devi is already creating waves in the West, and people who've seen it, I'm already getting people coming to offer me more films in the West. And I'm going to get caught. It's the same way I got caught in Joshile after Masoom. Where Masoom was not as instinctive as Puran, but it was still instinctive. It was more instinctive than Joshile or Mr. India. My fear is definitely that I'm going to get caught. When will I make a film like Puran again? I don't know. When will I be able to make a film that I don't structure and play games with the audience, with the viewer? I'm not playing any games. So here is a film where I've opened my subconscious out, like that. Will I do it again? I don't know. So it's more than a film. It's the discovery of yourself through a film. So it sounds very strange. I've discovered myself by making Puran Devi. I've discovered much more about myself during the making of Puran Devi. Because, as I said to all my actors, is don't worry about it. We'll worry about the film later. I don't know what's going to happen, but a pattern may emerge. Out of our honesty, a pattern may emerge. And if it emerges, that's our contribution. And it will only emerge if we get in touch with ourselves. Do you understand what I'm saying? I don't think many people will. People will have to be faced with situations like this, where you're lost floating with nothing, with no boundaries to hang on to, and just floating in space, and hoping that there is a pattern to space.